Canterbury's biggest conversation, on air and online. Canterbury Mornings with Chris Lynch on News Talk ZB.
The New Zealand Breast Cancer Foundation is proud to host the first New Zealand screenings of Decoding Annie Parker. That will happen actually in Christchurch. Now, Decoding Annie Parker, great film that stars Helen Hunt. It's based on the true story of a woman who refused to believe that breast cancer stalking her family was just a mere coincidence, and the discovery of a gene mutation that was actually causing the cancer. The film is based on Annie Parker's remarkable story, and Annie is with us from Toronto. Good morning to you.
Hi, Chris. Good morning.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being with us here at News Talk ZB. Tell us, Annie, how did the movie actually first come about?
I'd be happy to. The movie actually came about after I had written an unpublished manuscript, but what it did was provide the basis for the screenplay for Decoding Annie Parker. So when I took the manuscript to a company here in Toronto, I was hoping that they would be able to get me published, but it didn't turn out that way. Chris, what happened was it did, as I said, they sent it to a Hollywood producer by the name of Steve Bernstein, who had just finished a film called Monster with Charlize Theron, and that actually won an Academy Award, and they were looking for their new project. So that's how I came to be in touch with Stephen Bernstein.
What an amazing story. Did you feel nervous, and did you have any concerns that initially what you hoped would be a book was then to become a movie?
I was flabbergasted. I mean, I'm a girl from Toronto. I never thought I'd ever be having a conversation with a Hollywood director. And I had to do a lot of soul searching to see if I wanted to make my life story so public. But then I decided after a conversation with my family that this could be huge and it could help so many people. So I decided to go for it.
And you did. Now, you lost both your mother and your sister to breast cancer before developing it yourself. I want to ask you, when you received the first diagnosis, describe that day, describe receiving the news that you too had a disease that killed your mother.
You know, my answer is probably going to shock many of your listeners because I actually thought after my mom and my sister were diagnosed with breast cancer that I was going to be the one to get it next. And I was.
I'm sorry, Ann, but you have carcinoma of the left breast.
Phew. I thought it was going to be really bad news.
So my reaction to breast cancer wasn't a shock to me because I had done a lot of research, and of course a few years ago we didn't have the luxury of social media. So I used to spend a lot of time in libraries and actually researching. And when I did that, I found out, again years ago, that they're suggesting that breast cancer was not hereditary. But there was a knot in my stomach, and I really felt that after my mother and my sister, and actually a cousin of mine too, had developed breast cancer, that there had to be something more to just bad luck. So, again, to answer your question, it really didn't come as a huge surprise to me that I was diagnosed. It was almost a eureka moment when I found out that I had breast cancer, that I thought maybe the medical professionals then would start to take me seriously, that there was something more going on within our family makeup.
And there was. It was this.
And there was.
This
yes.
gene.
I mean, our family was torn apart by this unpreventable destiny, and I was part of the destiny.
So let's talk about this brilliant researcher named Mary Claire King. I mean, she helped discover the hereditary breast cancer gene, and it is fair to say, isn't it, this is considered one of the most important scientific discoveries of the 20th century.
Absolutely. Dr. King is my hero. She, developing this BRCA gene, mutation gene, was one of the most incredible discoveries in medical history. I mean, look at what Angelina Jolie did about a year ago with a double mastectomy, because she wanted to prolong her life. And these are things that people wouldn't have thought of doing years ago, and without knowing that they carry the BRCA gene mutation that Dr. King had discovered.
Yes, and that is a remarkable discovery in every sense of the word. Now, what people might not know, that I'm going to tell them now, is you are a true survivor of cancer, and I have to say, in every sense of the word, you have survived cancer 3 times. 3
That's
times.
right.
That is remarkable. And different cancers too, in a way.
Correct.
So let's talk about the second cancer you were diagnosed with. Tell us about that.
The second cancer was 8 years after I had been diagnosed with breast cancer. I really felt that when I developed breast cancer that I had dealt with it and I could move on with my life. And I did for 8 years, but then I was having some symptoms that I just felt weren't right. And what happened was I went to my doctor and chased around some abdominal discomfort, and they actually thought it was, believe it or not, they thought it was down to stress because they couldn't pinpoint the problem. But when they finally, a year later, discovered that there was something going on, I had already advanced to stage 3 ovarian cancer. And there is only 4 stages of ovarian cancer. So I was in pretty bad shape at that time.
And then cancer number 3.
Yeah, and that was in 1988. So it was treated with very extensive chemotherapy. And then 8 seems to be my very unlucky number, because then in 2005, I was actually diagnosed what is known as, or my oncologist calls, an unknown primary behind my liver. And I had the tumor removed with part of my liver. It's an incredible organ because it does grow back. But I also went through extensive chemotherapy then. But I have to tell you, Chris, in 2005, when they told me that I had to have about 8 months of chemo, it really rocked me to the core, because I remember in 1988 how terribly sick I was. But to use this term, and not loosely, but just to say that it was a walk in the park from 1988, it really was. I felt better. I was able to get back to work sooner. I felt more human than I did when I had the chemo for a year in 1988. So they've made a lot of strides in helping patients feel better quicker.
Also, though, I note, though, there were many times that you felt angry, though, Annie, angry that doctors perhaps missed some warning signs of some of your cancers.
Yes.
For you,
yes.
Does that make you want to tell and scream it from the rooftop even more, that if you as a woman, if you know your own body well and you think something's not right, ask again, go get a second opinion, because we know our bodies at the end of the day better than our GPs do in some respects, don't we?
Absolutely, and that is one of the reasons I was hoping that, and it has, the movie is going to, and it already has helped so many. It's all about the awareness, it's all about the education, it's all about working with your medical doctors right at the GP level to be able to get out, the information. And, as you just said, who knows your body better than your own self? And that's hence the movie, and hence now a new book that I've just written. Instead of Decoding Annie Parker, it's Annie Parker Decoded, because I want every GP to be able to hand my book to any patient that comes into his or her office thinking that they may be involved with a hereditary family with hereditary breast or ovarian cancer.
Annie Parker, if you were to write a review, no pressure, if you were to write a review of the movie Decoding Annie Parker, in a sentence, what would you say?
Helpful, hopeful, and you hit the nail on the head when you said about get mad. I many times through all these agonizing diagnosis of cancer, I have got angry, and I fought it with anger and determination. So I think the film, Decoding Annie Parker, shows that so well, and I think it is really going to empower women to take control over their body. It's done a lot of good so far.
And with you telling your personal story has done well too. You must take a lot of credit for that. Annie Parker, an absolute honour to speak with you. I wish you all the very best success with your new ventures, and I thank you for speaking with us here at News Talk ZB this morning.
It's been my pleasure, Chris. Thank you.
And thank you. The movie is Decoding Annie Parker, the premiere at Reading Cinemas at the Palms. It will take place at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, October the 22nd. Tickets are $35, including a glass of bubbles and a goodie bag. And of course, all the money goes to the New Zealand Breast Cancer Foundation.